Hello and welcome to another S.t.a.l.k.e.r installation video. I wasn't intending to do another one quite so soon, but I found myself surfing through ModDB the other day once again, and I was intending to do a Clear Sky mod installation this time round because it's Clear Sky's due a video. And I will get around to doing that quite soon. However, my attention was drawn to the Oblivion Remake 2.5, which, as far as I'm aware, is meant to represent the game had it been released around 2003 to 2004, rather than the 2007 release that we actually got. So I thought it would be worthwhile doing an installation video because there's not really a huge amount of information out there for it, and quite a lot of what you read is in Russian. So I found one or two bits and bobs to help me do a video, and I thought I'd do the installation in real time so you can see what you need to do, and away we go. So the first thing you need to do is get your download folder with all your bits and bobs in. Here I've got part 1, part 2, the unofficial fix, and then the English patch. And here we've got our installation folder, which unsurprisingly is empty at the moment. So the first thing you need to do is to extract part 1, which actually also accounts for part 2, and you just want to extract all of that information into this folder here. There we go, and this might take a little bit of time depending on what sort of drive you're running. It's a reasonably large file. It's about, I think it's a little bit under 2 gigabytes. Okay, so you've got that there now. You can close this, you don't need that any longer. And now what we want to do is to run the setup.exe. So just double click on that, select your language, and the next window you come to, you just want to click next. And then you want to make sure that you select the correct installation folder. In my case, it's going to be the installation on the desktop, so I'm going to browse to that. And then press install. And you should see the Oblivion Remake 2.5 folder appear as it begins to install. And this will probably take a bit longer than the previous extraction we did a moment ago. Okay, and you should notice that you then get to, I can't think of the word, 2 shortcuts, that's the word I was labouring to find. Right, so launch the game. We don't want to do that just yet, or I'm not bothered about viewing the README in this instance, so we can close that. And then the next thing you want to do is just to double click on this folder that we've just extracted or installed. And as you can see, that's what the kind of thing you should have. That's the main mod. The next thing to do is to apply the unofficial patch. So let's double click on that. And all we need to do is just to extract this information into this folder here. So again, I'm just going to browse to the exact location that I want. And this time, don't forget, you want to make sure it goes in the folder that you've just created. So it's a folder within a folder, if you like. So it's not just the installation folder, it's the Oblivion 2.5 you want. If you get asked to overwrite anything, then do so. And it won't take long at all because it's only, I think, about a 6 meg file or something like that. Yeah, nearly 6 megabytes. Right, so you can close that, that's done with. And then the last thing is the English patch. So as before, just double click on that, and you want to install this information to exactly the same location. So let's extract, browse to the location, and again this folder, and away we go. Done. Right, so close that down. Now before you run the game, you are advised to run the configurator, and I always forget which one is which. but it doesn't matter, I can always edit it out if I load up the game by accident. No, I got it wrong, it's actually this one. I get it wrong almost every time. This one's the game launcher, this one's the game launcher as well as the configurator. So it's the one that says launcher on it, that's the one you want. So double click on that and then you want to go into configurator. And up will come a command window with mostly jargon on it, but there is some English, and it'll ask you some request what your decision is for various options. And the first one is about the configs and the video settings, so I'm just going to select number 2 here, which is the high video settings. The next bit is the R2 2003 bloom mode shader. I have tried each of these and I found maximum one to be far too strong, too overpowered. It's just over the top as far as I'm concerned, but the 1 or 2 is fine. I'm going to use 1 for this video. And then we've got the EAX effects power. I'm not sure if my onboard audio has EAX. I'm assuming it, this day and age, it probably does, but I'm just going to go for the default here. And then you select the font size for the main menu, dialogues and inventory. I'm going to go for the, actually I think I was going to go for number 4. I might go for the build, which is the original version, so I might see how that looks. Hopefully I won't regret it. So that's number 1. And then we've got to select the scope size, which is number 2, which is the widescreen optimized 16:9 aspect ratio. This next bit here I can't actually help you with. I do not know what S.t.a.l.k.e.r for the menu is. I do not know. I've tried both. I haven't noticed any difference. Whether it's been, right in front of my nose and I just haven't noticed it, I don't know. But I'm just going to select off here. And then the next thing is the SMAA. I'm going to employ that, so that's number 2. And then we have select grass mode. Again, I haven't noticed much difference, if anything, between these two, so I'm just going to go for the default, which I guess is how the developers intended. And the last thing, once again, I'm just going to go for build mode for the actor animations. That's number 1. And then here we have the select CPU optimization mode. I'm running a 4-core CPU, so I'm going to select option 4. And that's it, that's done. So you can then just run that again, but this time choose to actually run the game. Okay, so hopefully this time I actually get a properly recorded video sequence. OBS for some reason just will not record this once I load up the game. It's fine on the desktop, but for this particular game it just won't do as I want it to. Even if I disable MSI Afterburner, it still won't do it. So for any of you out there that like to use OBS, and it is great most of the time, if you're going to use it, I would recommend turning off MSI Afterburner if you normally use that as well. Right, so first thing you should notice is at the bottom left you've got version 1.0006 Oblivion Lost Remake version 2.5 plus fix 17. And I've already adjusted my settings in the options, but just to show you, give you a quick rundown. You want to select your lighting to be, in my case, fully dynamic, and I wouldn't say it's a very hard game to run, so most people should be able to run fully dynamic lighting there, and also extreme with the installation quality. Resolution as per person's resolution. In my case it's 1440p. I've turned off VSync and I've set the field of view to 83, which is I find quite a nice field of view for S.t.a.l.k.e.r. In the advanced section There's not a great deal to look at compared to most mods these days. It's fairly relatively basic in the options that you have. I'm going to whack up the grass density and the grass range to maximum again, because I think it was OBS that caused the recording hit, performance hit last time, despite not giving me a picture. And Shadowplay normally has a much lower performance hit. It's probably, well, arguably the best for performance hit when it comes to recording software at the moment. Where are we? Texture filtering, smoothing, shadows, that's all on. I haven't tried adjusting the HDR intensity or the sun luminosity or the ambient luminosity. If you do, I recommend you tweak one of them at a time, otherwise it might get a bit confusing as to where you are. This is the shader that I installed in the command window on desktop, so it's the R2 2003 HDR shader, so we'll try that and see how the performance goes on that. And that's about it. Everything else is already checked or turned up pretty high. There's not a huge amount to say here really on the options, so let's apply that, and then I'll start a new game. I'm not going to play a mission as per normal. I'm just going to have a brief walk round part of the village just to give you an idea of what it looks like. For those of you that have played Lost Alpha, you'll see plenty of similarities, but this version is the most raw, rough and ready that you'll get for S.t.a.l.k.e.r. It's, as I say, as the developers intended for what would have been a 2004 or 2003 release. So it's a very raw and rough around the edges experience, but I should imagine an equally good one. So let's start a new game and take it from there.
Этот живой. Счастливчик. Хотя, кто знает, что для тебя лучше.
Убийственника. Ганслингер. Ты должен убить стрелка. Убийственника. Ты Ганслингер. Короче, я тебя спас, и в благородство играть не буду. Выполнишь для меня пару заданий, и мы в расчете. Заодно посмотрим, как быстро у тебя башка после амнезии прояснится. А по твоей теме постараюсь разузнать. Хрен его знает, на кой ляд тебе этот стрелок сдался. Но я в чужие дела не лезу. Хочешь убить? Значит, есть за что. Ну, чё стоишь? Подходи, не кусаюсь.
Okay, so as you can see, it's quite different to Shadow of Chernobyl's beginning, and for that matter, very different to most mods as well. So let's have a little look outside.
Ну, проветришься, заходи.
I've elected to skip the cutscene there because it's one that you've probably all seen before. But yeah, the performance seems pretty good, even while recording and with the grass density turned up to the maximum and the 2003 R2 shader in use. So I can't grumble. I'm getting about... yeah, it is dropping a bit actually now. Just a quick test, I'll try just adjusting one or two things and see if that affects it. So if I turn that shader off, which in actual fact I do overall prefer it to be turned off. Grass density, we try say half. Grass range, I think that's linked to density, but I'm not quite sure. I'll try that on, I think that was default. I think that's about default for the grass range. So let's try it now. Yeah, it seems to change, fluctuate quite a lot. I'm getting like over 100 there, 122. I'm not sure if the screen counter's on at the moment. 130 nearly. And there I'm down to 36. That's funny because I was going to say I wasn't getting that frame rate drop before, but then I've had problems getting this to record the video anyway, so hence why I'm trying shadow play. I guess also it's because it wasn't released and it's not optimised. That's probably part of the reason. Seems feasible anyway. So, for those of you that have played Lost Alpha, there's probably a fair degree of similarities in this opening sequence. Just pop in here and take a look round before I call it a day. I think that chap's seen better days. Just take a look outside the village and see if there's any major changes. I think to the right is where the military come from, so that would be like in SOC when you come out of the rookie village. God, the amount of leaves on the road. I wonder if that's to do with grass range or whatever it was called. I might just try turning that off to see what happens. Grass range. Let's just turn both those off for the moment, just to see if it makes any noticeable difference. No, it's still. Yeah, the frame rate seems to be fluctuating wildly. You know, here I'm getting. Sort of there I'm getting 60 something. But if I turn that way it's down to 28, so I'm not sure what the deal is there. I guess it needs some tweaking. you know, adjusting your video settings, that sort of thing. Or perhaps it needs to, you know, the game needs to be restarted to fully employ the changes that you've made. I'm not really sure. I haven't played much of this at all. I played Lost Alpha, but I haven't played this. I can see there's military heading my way, so it's a good excuse for me to go back to the village. Some of the plant life looks pretty good, actually. That does look good. Look a bit like stinging nettles. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon in something else. Bye for now.